Locations in the comments. As y'all coming in, give me your locations in the comments so we can get started. Hope everybody's having a great Friday. We are 2 weeks away from Halloween. Yeah, Halloween will be on Friday. Yes. As y'all coming in, shout yourselves out in the comments. Tell me your locations as you are coming in. I'll shout a few people out. We are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. I'm checking to see if we are live on X. Yes, we are live on X. Good morning, X. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. My name on all those platforms, aforementioned platforms, is at Dre All Day. LinkedIn, Rumble, YouTube, X. My name is Dre All Day. So any of you want to follow me on any of those platforms, just look me up. Pretty easy to find, or just type in my name, which is Dre Baldwin. Irma V, thanks for the rose early. Thanks for the gifts. Those of you on TikTok early. We are live on Facebook, Facebook/Work on Your Game University. Facebook users, Work on Your Game University. Live on Instagram at Dre Baldwin, and live on TikTok at Work on Your Game. Shout out your locations here. Give me your locations in the comments. I'll shout a few people out in a moment. Today we are talking about the Supreme Court currently hearing a case in Louisiana about districting of voters, congressional maps, basically about the Voting Rights Act. And there's a big argument. Is this just proper congressional mapping, or is it really just trying to take away the voting rights of certain demographics of people, specifically Black folks? We're going to talk about that here today and get into it, because the Supreme Court is listening to this right now. And even people on the Supreme Court have differing arguments about it. We're going to get into that in a moment. But let me shout a few people out first. Give me your locations in the comments as y'all coming in. Please like the live if you're watching on TikTok. Tap the screen to like the live. We're at 1,000 likes. We do 100,000 likes every day here on TikTok. So tap the screen to like the live as we get started. Let's see. G, thank you for the follow early. Quell Ridge checking in from Lincoln, California. Congrats on the first comment. Irma V, good morning. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Laura Iggy Lover, good morning from Oklahoma. 140.6 Walnut Creek, California. Nikki from Connecticut. Frederick from Waynesville, Missouri. Linda Gale, good morning from St. Louis. Shout out to St. Louis. Katie from Louisiana. We're talking about your state here today. Jay Rocca, good morning from Delaware. Angie from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Fort Baptiste from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Good morning. Courtney, good morning. Irma V, thanks for the rose gifts early. Courtney, thank you for the heart. Nay, good morning. Checking in from Baltimore. Shout out to Baltimore. L. Johnson, checking in from Union, New Jersey. It's 45 degrees in Jersey. See, that's the reason why I moved to South Florida. Shout out to Philadelphia, my hometown, but I'm in South Florida. That's where I live. Shout out to all y'all dealing with the cold already in the middle of October. Keep on living life. Mention the strawberry cheesecake. Yes, the strawberry cheesecake. We may get to use it here today. Depends on the comments. Strawberry cheesecake. Since you mentioned it there, I'll just play it one time so you can hear it. Nay, thank you for the gifted badge. Brooke, checking in from California. Martello Gomanaco, Good morning. Brooke, Tina from Chesapeake, VA. Marky Man from Sacramento. Kuya Binya Shower from Manson, North Carolina. Surfing Cowboy, downtown Miami. What's going on, sir? Andrew Zoliger, Redwood Falls, Minneapolis. Jenny Custom Cabana said, watching you for a year now. Yes, it's been about a year since I've been doing these lives on TikTok. I started doing lives on TikTok about August of last year. So shout out to those you've been watching for a year or more. Rashida Williams 167, thanks for the follow and the heart early and for joining the fan club. Giga Dad, good morning from North Carolina. Keith Brooks from Memphis, Tennessee. How's the National Guard doing in your town right now? Kuya Binya Shower, thanks for the gift. Peter PLPJ from Miami. Shout out to Miami. John from Jacksonville, Florida. Shout out to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a nice place. Big city. Bigger than a lot of people think it is. Jules, thanks for the follow. General Bradshaw, Huntsville, Alabama. Freedom Rider, North Florida. Again, shout out to North Florida. Miss Rianne Bennett from Kansas City, Missouri. Keith Brooks said they're cleaning house here. That's what I heard. We might do a live on that. I got some points on that I want to talk about. We just haven't gotten around to the topic. So let's get to the actual topic here today, which is the Supreme Court. Right now is hearing a case that is the actual name of the case is Louisiana versus Calais, Callais. And this is a case that could redefine how race could possibly be used in setting congressional maps and reshaping, the Voting Rights Act itself, maybe. And this is all going to depend on what the Supreme Court rules, if they make a ruling at all. But any ruling that Supreme Court does make, or what's the word that I would use here? Statements, let's say, that the Supreme Court sends down based on this case is going to set precedent for any other case in the future about this. So what the Supreme Court decides matters a lot. Even if the case itself doesn't affect you, the precedent that the Supreme Court sets precedent for every other court, local, federal, and any other case that comes up, whether the case even gets to court or get to trial in the first place. That's why this matters. So the state's new congressional map. Right now, Louisiana is trying to draw new congressional maps. It's technically called SB 8. And what it did is it added a second majority black district as a Section 2 remedy for past vote dilution. In other words, there's an argument that there's been past voting dilution in the state of Louisiana that took away the power of a majority black, or what would have been a majority black district, and basically took away the voting voice of black people. It's not that black people couldn't vote. It's just that there was a district that could have existed that would have been majority black, that would have basically let the black folks have more say because they had a whole district that was majority black. So most black people in that district, assuming, this is the theory, this is me saying this, is not them saying it, that if the majority, that district that is majority black, all voted in a similar way, then that section would have a whole lot of say in how elections went in the state of Louisiana. So what the argument is that adding this second majority black district will give black voters a little bit more say overall in the elections that happen in the state of Louisiana. And this is a remedy for, in the past, not having this section. So the argument is black people have basically been disenfranchised voting wise. So we're going to fix that by giving a section that is mostly black, that'll give black people more voting rights. Now, Louisiana, on the other hand, this is their counter, and they're backed by parts of the federal government, not all of it, but parts of the federal government. Their argument is that forcing map makers to consider race is unconstitutional, and it's racial balancing that indefinitely mandates race-based districts and violates equal protection by making race the primary factor over things like compactness, meaning the size of the district, making it make sense as far as the maps go, political boundaries, and voter choice. This is a very interesting argument because you have people arguing two different things here. So it's two different conversations happening. One side of it is saying that the district should be mapped based on, or race should at least be considered, maybe even heavily considered, because it's race. I mean, in America, you could just make the argument that race alone, you don't have to even have any other substance behind the argument besides just saying race, and some people are going to go along with it. And on the other hand, Louisiana is saying that, no, we should not be drawing congressional maps based on race. That doesn't make any sense. That's, first of all, going against the way the government is even designed in the first place. It's going against the Constitution. You're trying to make a conclusion over here based on race when the conversation is not even about race, and you're trying to mandate a race-based district because this sets a precedent that, okay, if we can do it here in this section of Louisiana, we can do it in another one, and another one, and another one. Then other states are going to take that precedent. They're going to do the exact same thing. And it's violating equal protection laws by making race a primary factor in your decision in how you draw the maps over things like the size of it, regardless of race, or political boundaries and actual voter choice. So this is a very interesting conversation. I'm sure there are plenty of opinions on this one. Now, civil rights groups are countering that Section 2 exists precisely to address structural discrimination in voting. So this Section 2 is the thing that's being argued about here. And this is going all the way up to the Supreme Court. So they haven't been able to solve this in lower courts. So what people are saying, civil rights groups, they say that Section 2, the reason it came to exist is precisely to address any structural discrimination in voting, which goes back to way earlier times in the United States, especially in the southern part of the country, which I think most of you understand. So there's structural discrimination in voting, and that removing race-based tools, which is what the state wants to do. They want to remove race-based tools. Civil rights proponents are saying we want to keep in the race-based tools. So they say that if you remove them, you're going to allow subtle and covert dilution of minority votes. So they're arguing that minority votes will matter less if you don't have these race-based, what do we call them? Let's just call them parameters in when it comes to the districting. And even without overt racial intent, it still will have it will still be that outcome. So the central question before the Supreme Court there are a few central questions here the Supreme Court has to address. Number one, when is race too dominant of a consideration here? Should we make race the issue here, or should it just be about drawing the maps the way the maps need to be drawn regardless of race? That's one question they have to answer. Number two, how strict, must this review be? And number three, whether courts can demand race-based remedies without itself running afoul of the Constitution. So those are three questions that need to be answered. That Supreme Court going to answer these questions. I'm not answering these questions. We're going to address them, but Supreme Court's going to come up with the actual answer. The three questions again is, when is race too dominant of a consideration? That's question number one. Question number two is, how strict should the review be? How strictly should we look at this based on race versus based on other factors? And number three, can you even do this? Can a court even do this without running afoul of the Constitution? Because they're not. What the courts are supposed to do is basically uphold the laws that are on the books, local level, state level, and federal level, and they're supposed to uphold the Constitution. They're supposed to be doing all of that at the same time, while at the same time interpreting those laws at every level, whichever level the court happens to be at, based on the situation at hand. So let me introduce myself first before I go into more detail on this. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. Former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you with the power presence. What is power presence? It is that energy that you feel from another person, even if you don't hear them speak, even if you don't see them doing anything. It's the energy, is not the effort, and it's the unconscious. 85% of communication is nonverbal. Everybody's heard that. Everybody generally agrees with it. That 85% of communication that is nonverbal does most of the work for you, or it does most of the work against you. What we do over here is help you master that 85% so that most of your work is done before you even do or say anything. You want to learn more about that? Just stick around. Make sure you text me. So you're in my texting group. My number is in my bio. If you're watching on TikTok, the number is 305-384-6894. If you're watching on any other app, I have it in the pinned comments so all of you can see it. But those of you on TikTok, y'all can't see it. Number's in my bio. So when this live is over, just go to my profile. You'll see the number. 305-384-6894. Text the word live. I'll send you a link to get some of my books for free. Text the word power. You want to learn more about that power presence protocol program that we have coming soon. Now, here's the thing. Some people sometimes when I'm talking about legal situations, sometimes I see comments from some of you who say stuff like, well, if the law is this or the law is that, then this is just a cut and dry case. Why is there even an argument about this? Why is there a debate about it? The law just says this, and that's pretty much what it is. Well, if it was that simple, ladies and gentlemen, then we wouldn't have judges, courts, or we wouldn't even need lawyers for that matter. The reason we have judges, courts, and lawyers is not because people can't read and they don't understand what the law says. The reason we have judges, courts, and lawyers is because their job is to argue and interpret the law. It's not just to say this is what it says in black and white. Because if it was just this is what it says in black and white, well, we have Chat GPT and Perplexity and Grok and Gemini and all these AI apps, so they can read faster than humans. They can interpret the words faster than human beings, and they can tell us what's in black and white much faster, much more effectively, much more efficiently, and much more consistently than any human being can do so. So why don't we just replace all the courts with Chat GPT? The reason we don't is because the job of the Supreme Court, and any court for that matter, any judge, let's just say judges for now, and the courts, their job is to take the arguments of the lawyers. This is the reason why you have lawsuits and court cases and trials. The lawyers say, here's the law, here's my interpretation. This one lawyer says, here's my interpretation of that law. The other lawyer, the prosecutor and the defense, they say, here's my interpretation of that law. They're both arguing about the exact same factual point, but they're coming up with different interpretations of it. The job of a judge and or a jury is to listen to the different interpretations from the different sides in every case, and they decide which interpretation makes the most sense. So, for example, the OJ trial back in the day, OJ was on trial for murder. They said he did it. OJ's defense team said he didn't do it. And the whole argument was about, can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it versus he didn't do it? Because he said he didn't do it. That doesn't mean he didn't do it. And the prosecutor said he did do it. Doesn't mean that he did do it. The whole argument is about who can make the better case and interpretation of this law based on how the law is supposed to be interpreted. The judge tells the jury that. The jury makes a decision based on that and based on the strength of the arguments. And we all know famously the most famous line ever said in the courtroom, Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. He made a better argument than the prosecution. That's the reason why OJ got off. Now, did OJ actually do it or not? We talked about this a few weeks ago. I think most of you believe OJ did it. But the reason why OJ got off is not because he either did it or did not do it. It's because his lawyers made a better argument than the prosecutors. That's what courts are for. That's the reason why we have courts. They get to interpret your argument. This is the reason why communication skills matter so much, folks, because life is not about the facts. I've told you all many times over the last year, facts don't matter. Let me say that again for those of you who have not heard me before. Maybe some of you are watching me for the first time. Facts, F-A-C-T-S, or what some of you like to say, facts, F-A-X. Facts don't matter. Now, I don't mean they don't matter, 100% don't matter. What I'm saying is directionally, facts don't matter. Why do facts not matter? Facts don't matter because in the world that we're in today, people can, first of all, create their own facts. You have AI bots, AI chat, GPTs and Perplexities and Geminis and Groks. They can come up with facts for you within a matter of seconds. So if you hear a fact that you don't like, you can go on one of those apps and get a counter fact that makes you feel good, that assuages your anxieties, that counters the fact that you just heard that you didn't like. Is this true? Of course it's true. So you don't have to accept any fact that you don't want to accept these days. Number two, these applications can create information and facts and storylines, whether true or not, in a matter of seconds. So if you hear something that you don't like, you can come up with a counter fact, or you can completely ignore a fact with other information that can disprove the information that you just got, even if the information you got was factual. Number three, there's always multiple facts involved in every situation. So just because someone gave you a fact does not mean that's all the facts. There's a difference between a fact and the truth. Facts are handpicked. You can handpick certain facts out of any situation and just present the handpicked facts that support your argument. And you can leave out the facts that don't support your argument and then say that you're giving people facts. And you're not lying. You are giving people facts, but you're not giving them the truth. The truth is all the facts in full context. The reason why that distinction matters is because most people don't want to get all the facts in full context, because all the facts in full context requires time, effort, energy, and thinking. Most people don't want to put in time. They don't want to give effort. They don't have a lot of energy, and they don't want to think. This is the reason why the Chat GPTs of the world, these AI bots, are so popular, because they reduce the need for you to think, process, or do any work. They do all the work for you. They do all the thinking for you. This is the reason why a lot of humans are about to be replaced over the next 10 to 15 years, because you already have a habit of not thinking. The AI bots are making it easier for you to not think. And if you're not thinking and the apps can do things better than you, then what do we need you for? So any of you who's a knowledge worker, if you're not really using your brain in a unique way, you're about to be replaced. And those of you who do physical work, that's the next wave, is that AI bots are doing it with words now, and they're doing it with words and knowledge now. The next wave is they're going to do it with machines physically. So if you bag the fries at McDonald's, you're about to be replaced. If you make the burgers, you're about to be replaced. If you're a cook at a restaurant, you are about to be replaced. They're about to replace every human being who's doing anything that could easily be done by a robot. Why? Because, again, thinking, reading, interpreting, these are things that take effort. And most human beings are already inherently lazy. AI is helping you be more lazy, and then they're about to replace you for the very laziness that they helped you develop more of. So they're kind of playing a trick on you, for all of you to understand this. It's not even a topic here today, but since I'm on the subject, I might as well bring it up. I'm saying all that to help you understand the frame here of why we have courts, judges, and lawyers. You understand that's the weave. Donald Trump calls that the weave. All right, so I went off topic, and I'm coming back to the topic. They had to interpret all of this. This is what the Supreme Court is doing. And this matters because they're going to decide, basically the bottom line here is, can you draw a congressional map based on race? Should you draw a congressional map based on race? Is that okay? Is it not okay? And the main argument here, colloquially, if we take it out of all the details and stuff, we take it out of all the details here, is that people are trying to frame this. If you see on social media, this is where I get most of my ideas for topics from, is that the white people running Louisiana, this is the frame, the white people running Louisiana, plus the federal government run currently by the Trump administration, we know he's white, they are trying to disenfranchise black people by making the congressional maps not based on race, which will give the black vote less say, which in turn can help the white vote have more say. But there are several problems with this frame. That's the frame that we're talking about here today. So everybody understand, that's the frame. Now, here's the reason why that frame is problematic. Number one reason why this frame is problematic is because this frame is presuming, without saying, it is intimating that all black people vote the same way. That's not true. That is false. The frame intimates that we got to have a black district because why do they care about having a black district? Because a black district means if all the black people vote a certain way, then that means that whatever political party is running can count on that district voting for them. Here's the problem. All black people do not vote the same way. Now, a majority of black people vote Democrat. We know this. My parents vote Democrat. They were born in the 60s. They're Democrats. I've told this little anecdote before. When I was a child, maybe 10, 11 years old, we would eat dinner together. Mother, father, my sister, and myself. And we had a little TV in the kitchen that had like 4 channels. And we would usually have the news on before Jeopardy and Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune would come on, or the Cosby Show or something like that. And they were talking about politics, Democrats, Republicans. And I said to my mom, I said, are we, because my parents vote every election, they would always vote. There was a polling place right across the street from our house. They would always vote every election, no matter if they had to they went to work. It was a long day. They always made sure to vote every time there was an election. And I didn't know what they voted. We never talked about it in detail. But I asked my mom, are we Democrats or Republicans? Because by that time, I could understand that there was a clear divide between these two groups. And my mom said, we are Democrats. We meaning her and my dad, because they always voted. And I said, well, why are we Democrats? Because, again, I can understand that there was a difference between the two groups. And my mom thought about it for a second. She had to come up with an answer to the question. I don't think she really had an answer to the question. I think she was indoctrinated since a child that black people are supposed to vote Democrat, and she never really thought about it. But she had to give me an answer. And here's what she said. You want to know what she said? She said, because Republicans only work for rich people. That was her answer. She said, Republicans only work for the rich people. Now, I don't know what I think she might have wanted to say Republicans only work for white people, but she didn't say that. And maybe she really wanted to say what she actually said. Republicans only work for the rich people. And I didn't respond to what she said, but looking back on it, I might have thought to myself, well, hey, why not? Why don't we just become rich? And then we can have Republicans working for us. Or what are Democrats doing for us? I didn't ask that question. Would have been a good follow-up. Republicans work for the rich people. Okay, well, what do the Democrats do? There's no answer to the question. They don't do anything. So anyway, the argument here intimates that black people are going to vote all a certain way. And if black people all vote a certain way, then that helps the Democrats get at least a certain number of votes bagged in their position in the state of Louisiana in these elections. So that usually means congressional elections, senatorial elections, governor elections. All of you live in Louisiana. This matters. Now, these race-based remedies, again, they say it protects minority voting power in places with polarized voting, where white and black voters vote uniformly apart. Again, which is what I just explained to you. So without these tools, maps can be drawn to dilute minority influence, even if no one admits racial motive. And this is the argument here. They're not saying it in so many words. Maybe somebody will say it in court. These arguments being had before the Supreme Court. Maybe somebody will just come out and tell the truth. I don't know. But that's pretty much what this is about. That in Louisiana, the argument is white people tend to vote this way, black people tend to vote that way. Let's assume that means Republican and Democrat, respectively. And if you dilute this congressional map and don't allow it to be majority black, then that section, that group that usually would get the Democrats a certain amount of votes, now is diluted and they can't even bag those votes. So it basically allows the Republicans to continue to have more power, more say, more majority in these elections than they normally would have. That's the argument. Again, nobody's saying it out loud right now. Nobody's pointing out the elephant in the room, but that's pretty much the conversation. Without saying it, they're saying it. But they may be saying it. So this is just going off of what I know so far. I'm not in the Supreme Court chambers hearing these arguments. Now, mandating race and maps risks this colorblind constitutional violation because the Constitution is designed to be colorblind. Constitution is not based around, well, white people get this, black people get this. Constitution is about, Constitution. It's about America. It's a land of free, home of the brave. It's not about, again, giving anything to any certain race. So the state of Louisiana and other states, they're watching this very closely because if this goes through in Louisiana, that you can make congressional maps based on race, every other state's going to do the same thing. So even those of you who don't live in Louisiana, like myself and most of you, this matters for you because if they can do this there, they're going to do it in other places. And the Supreme Court is making this rule. Supreme Court makes this ruling. It sets a precedent for every other court in the United States. And now this is going to become a normal thing. That's why this is an issue, even if you don't live in that state. So the states are arguing they should be free to draw maps based on neutral criteria, not be compelled to split precincts or contort boundaries based on race. So critics warn that this entrenched racial gerrymanders, they become permanent. So this is the whole argument here, is that back in the days, the districts were drawn based on race because they could get away with it. The states could get away with saying, well, F the black people. We don't care if they get any power or voting power. They can't do anything. They can't take us to court. They can't afford lawyers. We're going to draw it the way we want to draw it. So the white people have most of the say. We give black people a little bit of say, but not enough to really make a difference. And we're going to give the white people all the say. And that's the way that it had been for a long time. And now the argument is, hey, we need to kind of remedy that and make some districts that are majority black. And we know the majority black district is going to vote a certain way. That kind of balances things out historically and it balances things out electorally. So that's the argument. So this is the reason why the Supreme Court. This is the reason why these people are appointed to the court, because they get to make the tough call here. I could see very strong arguments for both sides. There's a strong argument for, let's just do this neutrally. People are people. All right, this is not back in the day. All right, this is not the Jim Crow South. All right, there are no slaves. Everybody is free. People can do what they want to do. How about we just do things neutrally, and however it goes, it goes. The election is the election. How about we just do it how we do it, and we just draw the maps, not based on who people are or where they live. And anyway, why are we going to draw a voting map based on the color of people? That's assuming that everybody votes the same way when they don't. There are black people who vote Republican. There are black people who don't vote at all. And there are white people who vote both Democrat and Republican. So why would we draw a map based on race, assuming that has something to do with how the election is going to go? Doesn't even make logical sense. Logically, does that make sense? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make any logical sense. However, if you bring race into the conversation, it becomes more of an emotional argument than a logical one. And this is why the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court. They have to figure out, how do we want to interpret this? Do we want to interpret this strictly logically? Because if it's strictly logical, this case wouldn't even have made it to the Supreme Court. This is what already got knocked down in the lower courts, and it'd be over. It made it all the way to the Supreme Court because this argument between the logic and the emotion is a big one in the United States. And this one hasn't been resolved quite yet. Now, if the Supreme Court ends up taking this on as a case and they get to make a ruling on it, well, I think y'all can pretty much guess how that's going to go. And for those of you who don't understand why I'm saying that or what I'm saying, the Supreme Court right now is a, 6-3 majority conservative leaning judges. Doesn't mean that they go with the conservatives in every single outcome, because many times they've gone against Donald Trump. But if it comes down to something like this, I'm figuring it's going to go the way it's going to lean more conservative, which is probably going to be in favor of the state. But that remains to be seen. TBD. All right, to be determined how that ends up going. Now, the counter side says race is inseparable from real electoral structure, so ignoring it allows continued structural discrimination. All right, this is a legitimate argument. I don't generally agree with it. I don't generally like bringing race into logical conversations because it tends to turn people more emotional than logical, and then it becomes an emotional judgment rather than a logical judgment. And my brain does work that way, and that I can understand it, but I don't like it. But I understand why people make this argument. I understand the value of making this argument, and there is legitimacy to this argument. So minority communities, often, this is their argument of the people coming against the state. They often need a remedy that accounts for the reality of polarized voting. Is this a real thing? The answer is yes, it is. This is a real thing. If you're white and you are conservative and or MAGA, or you live in a predominantly white area, maybe this is something that's never occurred to you. I understand this, that there is an argument to this, that black people want to feel like their vote matters. There's a lot of people in America who feel like their vote does not matter, that no matter what they vote, the outcome is going to be the outcome, especially if you live in a state that tends to vote a certain way all the time. They tend to get a certain type of Democrat or Republican every single time over and over again. We talked about the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. They keep voting in these Democratic mayors, and the city doesn't seem to be doing that much better, even though they get Democrat after Democrat after Democrat. And there are other cities that is the same way, but it's Republicans. So if people feel like their vote doesn't matter, then something may need to be done so that it's not so much guaranteed what side is going to win. Just like our presidential elections. I've been telling this to a lot of you over the last year, especially those of you who are conservative, Trump and MAGA supporters. Don't get cocky just because the Republicans are in control right now of executive and Congress and the House and the Senate. Don't get cocky, because the way voting goes in the United States of America, especially with federal elections, is that it's balanced enough that either side can win every election. Yes, Trump kind of trounced Kamala in 2024, but he didn't trounce her by that much that is impossible for the Democrats to win in 2028, let alone 2026. And we want that, by the way. Even if you are a Republican, conservative, MAGA supporter, Trump supporter, diehard, red, right, politically, those of you listening to this, I know some of you are in here. Even if you are that, you don't want it to be that the Republicans have so much voting power that they can't possibly lose. You don't want that. Why? Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. Any political side feels like it's impossible for them to lose. They become dictatorial and they start doing whatever they want to do, to the point that it starts affecting you in a negative way. And what you thought you wanted, you end up not wanting. If any of you don't understand this, look around at countries where there are dictators. All right, look at the C country, whose name I'm not going to say here because I'm on TikTok. Look at Russia. Look at these countries where they have people who basically can't be taken out of power. All right, they do what they want to do, and you go against them. Even on social media, like what I'm doing right now, you go against them, they'll be knocking on your door, especially if you're popular. That's what happens in countries where one side has all the power and there is no other. There's no side. It's just one group. They don't even have a side. There's no side over there. It's just one person and one organization. That's it. They have no counter. There's no counterparty over there. You want there to be a counterparty in the United States. Why? Because it keeps everybody honest. Counterparties keep the Democrats keep the Republicans honest, and the Republicans keep the Democrats honest. Now, they're all liars, but they can only lie but so much, because they know every lie they tell, they're going to get called out by their opponent. You understand? We need this counter. I don't even like that there's a two-party system. It'd be better if it was like 4 or 5 or 6 parties where all of them had a chance to win. It'd be better if it was like that. It'd be better if it was like baseball or football, where there's several teams that have a chance to win the championship. I don't like that there's only 2. But 2 is better than 1. All right, if there was just 1, again, even if you're a supporter of that party, you wouldn't want that, because eventually they're going to start doing whatever they want. They're going to stop listening to you because you don't have to vote for them. They're going to win no matter what. So why they got to listen to you? This is what y'all got to understand. And this is something that, speaking of black people in voting, that one criticism that some black people have offered, even, and myself as well, of the majority of black people in America, is that a lot of black people are brainwashed to vote Democrat. They're indoctrinated to vote Democrat no matter what, even though you can't name what the Democrats have done for you to vote Democrat. There's a lot of people I know who are hardcore Democrat voters who will always vote Democrat. And there are people who even said to me, I'm not voting for Trump. No, I don't care who the other person is. I'm just not voting for Trump. And I'm like, well, what's the reason? And their reason is, I'm not voting for Trump. They're just going to vote Democrat. And the question then is, what are the Democrats doing for you? And you can't answer the question, then you're giving away your vote and you're not asking for anything in exchange. And that's a legitimate criticism of a lot of black people voting Democrat, no matter what, without asking, what are you giving me for my vote? And a lot of Democratic politicians go into their campaigns knowing that they don't really need to campaign that hard to sell themselves to black people because they know black people are going to vote Democrat no matter what. So let me just spend more of my time selling myself to people who might actually vote against me because I know the black people are going to vote for me. This is a criticism of black voters in America. Some of you who are listening to me right now, I'm talking about you. The vote has to be earned. Your vote has to be earned. And if people think they're going to get your vote without doing anything and without offering you anything, well, why would you sell to somebody where you don't have to get them anything in order to get what you want? Are you going to put effort into that? Me neither. This is the reason why Kamala Harris, if you remember the 2024 election cycle, during that cycle, Kamala Harris we're in mid-October, so she was already hardcore into it by this point. It was around about early September, all of September, then all through October, Kamala Harris started throwing out things that she was going to do for black voters. About the last 6 to 7 weeks of her campaign, she started throwing out all these things she was going to do. I'm going to do all these things for black men. I'm going to do all these things to help people start businesses. I'm going to give you the credit for the houses. Now, she didn't say just black people for that one, but she started throwing things out that were clearly targeted towards black people, specifically black men. Now, why was she doing this? She was doing this because I don't know how good Kamala's team is or how much Kamala listens to her team. We talked about this a lot yesterday, but some people on her team were smart enough to read data. They could read the data. The data was telling Kamala and her team, hey, you're not doing so well with black men. It was obvious she wasn't doing well with black men. And this is in the polling before the election that black men were not really feeling Kamala, which meant either A, they weren't going to vote at all. There's a lot of winning elections federally is about getting people to actually vote. It's not about whether they vote for you or the opponent, because will never vote for the opponent, but if they don't like you, they're not going to vote at all. Because voting takes effort. You got to actually get up and leave the house and go actually vote, except in 2020. But that's a different story. So to get people to actually vote for you, they got to be enthusiastic enough about what you're going to do for them that they care. Or they got to care enough about the election that they go vote for whatever reason. Kamala could see that black men were not really feeling her. They were either going to abstain from voting or they're going to vote for Trump, which is a problem because if Kamala couldn't dominate the black vote, there's no way she could win the election. And we saw what happened in November. So what Kamala started doing was throwing out a whole bunch of bait for black men. Hey, I'm going to do this for black men if I win the election. If I win, I'm going to do all these things. Donald Trump's not offering you to do anything. The problem with what Kamala was doing, it was a good idea. The problem is nobody believed her because Kamala just was not very believable. The reason why she wasn't very believable because she's a poor communicator, which what I was talking to you all about at the beginning of this live stream. When your communication is poor, people tend to not believe what you say, regardless of what you said. They could feel that she just didn't seem believable, and she's not a believable politician. That's her problem. And I was listening to yesterday, as a matter of fact, I was listening to Megyn Kelly. She had Ana Kasparian on. You know Ana Kasparian? She's from the Young Turks, and she is a Democrat. And they were playing something that Kamala had said. I can't remember what it was, but Kamala said something sounding stupid as usual. And Ana Kasparian said, I don't know what happened to Kamala, because what she was saying, because I wasn't paying much attention to Kamala before she became vice president. I didn't even know she was. But Ana Kasparian was saying that Kamala used to be really sharp and really good with the words and really like on point when she was a senator. Any of you remember this? Give me a yes or no. Any of you can co-sign that point. I don't know. I was not paying any attention to Kamala Harris before she became VP. But Ana Kasparian was saying that Kamala used to be really sharp back then. And she was like, I don't know what happened to this woman. That's what she was saying. I don't know what happened to her. Is that she kind of like lost her fastball because they were saying during the Kavanaugh confirmations. During the Kavanaugh confirmations, Kamala was on the what do they call those? The committee. When Brett Kavanaugh was up, because remember Kavanaugh had these allegations from like 30 years ago of what he allegedly did to some woman. And Kamala was on the committee and Kamala was like hitting him. She was hitting him hard, Brett Kavanaugh, with the questions. And they were like, Kamala was sharp back then. What the hell happened to this woman? And she just hasn't lost it. She's only 60 years old. She shouldn't be losing it. Donald Trump's 20 years older than her. Gavin Newsom's the same age as her. They haven't lost anything, so I don't know what the hell the problem is. But anyway, her communication skills are lacking. We talked about that enough. Now, anyway, all that said, Kamala started throwing out all this stuff for black men because it was clear that black men were not feeling Kamala Harris and she wasn't going to win the black male vote. And without the black male vote, she had very little chance of winning the election. If you're trying to win the black vote, you're a Democrat in the United States of America, you must dominate the black vote. Barack Obama got like 97% of the black vote twice. Kamala got like 97% of the female black vote, but she only got in the 70s when it came to the male black vote, which is still a considerable amount. O-Dog, I see over there on YouTube, said black men still voted for her by 76%. So she still got 76% of the black male vote, but in order to win, she needed like 96%. So that 20% she didn't get, those black men either voted for Trump or they didn't vote at all. And that was the death knell to her campaign, because it was going to be split amongst the white people and the Asians and the Latins. But the black vote, you're a Democrat, especially if you're a black person, Barack Obama and now her, you can't not dominate the black vote. That's crazy. It's like being a college football coach and you're in Miami. All the best prospects that come out of Miami should be coming to your school. You can't even recruit your own backyard, then you're ineffective. You're probably going to end up getting fired because you're losing all the talent. That's the way it works. You got to dominate the home space. Then maybe you might lose some of the other ones, but you got to dominate the home space. So this argument that minority communities need a remedy that accounts for the reality of polarized voting is a real argument, and the Supreme Court has decided is this going to be more of a logical argument or an emotional argument. I'm thinking, looking at the Supreme Court, the way it's currently constructed, that this is going to be more of the logic and Louisiana is going to win. But I could be wrong. Now, opponents will point to burdens on map makers' discretion. Emphasizing compactness, traditional political subdivisions, and avoiding bizarre shapes should remain dominant. So when they make the maps, they want to make them compact. They want to make them easy to understand. They want to follow tradition. And they don't want to make these crazy shapes just to get certain people into certain areas. And these remedial districts often stretch across neighborhoods artificially. So their argument is, why do we need to do all this and bend over backwards just to get certain demographics of people into a map, which is not what it's supposed to be about anyway. And again, that's the logical argument that I've already presented. Now, supporters stress that there have been past abuses. There have been litigation history. There's been plenty of that. And that the court has long allowed race-based remedies under what they call the Gingell's precedent. So what is the Gingell's precedent? There was a case called Thornburg versus Gingell's, another one called Shaw versus Reno, and Shelby County undergrid their arguments. I don't know about these. I didn't look into much detail of these, but I did look them up to find out what they were. But we're not going to go into detail all of this. The whole point is there's precedent. There's legal precedent, and this is what the law is about. For those of you who don't really understand how it works, the law is often, if you end up in court, often your arguments are about legal precedent. It's not about the facts, quote unquote, the facts. I already told you all the facts don't matter. All right. What matters often when you end up in court is you say to the judge, something like this has happened before and it went to court. And here's what they said. It's the same thing I'm asking you to say right now because it's a similar situation. That's called legal precedent. And the Supreme Court, the reason why it matters when a case gets all the way to the Supreme Court is because the Supreme Court is the highest court in the country. So when they make a ruling on something, for example, the Dobbs ruling, or, for example, Brown versus the Board of Education, when they make a ruling on something, that precedent reverberates through every court in the country to the point that you no longer have to go to court on that situation because the Supreme Court ruled on it. Therefore, there's no argument. In other words, everybody follows the setting set by the Supreme Court. Whatever precedent or example they set, everybody else follows it. So when Brown versus Board of Education happened, that was a ruling that said, okay, you cannot discriminate schools. So if a black person wants to go to a school, you can't stop them based on race. Period. Done. Over. There's not going to be another court case about that. There hasn't been one since. That's how legal precedent gets set. So this case being at the Supreme Court is a big deal for that reason. Same thing with the Dobbs decision when it came to abortion, federalized abortion in the United States. Once it was set, it was set. And this is the reason why Democrats were fighting so hard against that when it happened. So this legal precedent is a big deal. Now, opponents say that precedents have been stretched too far. There's the counter argument. The court did not anticipate perpetual remedial mapping. And this is the crux of the argument. And this is why the Supreme Court judges get paid the big bucks. Actually, I don't know how much they get paid, but they have this job for this reason to interpret how they want to look at this. Because, again, there's a solid argument on both sides. Opponents are saying that these precedents, these legal precedents, Yes, there is a precedent, but the problem is that precedent has been stretched too far. Y'all keep stretching the precedent, go a little bit further than it went. So the ruling said this, that set the precedent. Then you want me to go 2% further than that. Okay, now I'm going 2% further than that, then 2% further than that. And now the precedent just starts compounding to the point that it's ridiculous. And at some point, we got to stop the stretching of the precedent. That's the argument on the other side of this. So y'all understand how, ChatGPT can't figure this stuff out. This is why you need humans. This is why you need communication skills. This is why you need argumentation skills. So some justices will see this race-based maps becoming permanent fixtures, not temporary cures. So again, who's figuring this out? Those are your Supreme Court justices. This is why your presidents matter, because your presidents get to choose the justices. The justices tend to lean to the left or the right, depending on who the president is that chose them. And this is where we're at. Now, if the court limits race use, many existing minority districts could be challenged and destabilizing congressional balance in states from Alabama to Texas, a lot of places along in the South. So dozens of seats may be at risk and benefit states with controlling legislatures. In short, if the court says, Supreme Court that is, if they don't let this happen, they don't let the minority district thing happen, they rule in favor of the state, then that sets a precedent that other states can do the same thing. They can start knocking down or eliminating or refusing to consider minority majority districts, which means more districts that are more majority, i.e. white people. And the whole argument is that these white people are going to vote Republican. Then that could mean that congressional seats, voting for things like city council, mayors, governor, etc., could all become more and more Republican. And it would basically take away the voice of black people, i.e. Democrats. This is why the Democrats are picking up the torch of this argument. So when you hear people talking about this is why. Because they understand the downstream effects of this. It's not about the state of Louisiana, because again, most people don't live in Louisiana. But they're thinking about, if this sets a precedent, then I can go to every other state. That could lead to more Republicans winning elections, and that could lead to Republicans dominating Congress. They're the ones who make the laws, and y'all can see where this can go. That's what this is really about. It's not about Louisiana. People really don't care that much about Louisiana if they don't live there. Now, conversely, defenders warn that invalidating race tools invites wholesale dilution by coded partisan gerrymandering, especially in states lacking federal oversight. I don't know what state doesn't have federal oversight, because you could take anything to court. But without Section 2A's, minority communities may lack legal recourse. That's their argument. The minorities will just be shut out. They can't talk. They have no voice. They don't have any say when it comes to elections. And you're just basically taking advantage of the little guy who doesn't have the power and doesn't have the voice. That's the emotional argument versus the logical argument. And this is what the Supreme Court has to decide. Now, this decision could force Congress to amend the Voting Rights Act. And if that happens, we'll do a whole album on that. Because if that happens, every congressperson you know of is going to be talking. They'll all be talking about this one. If this becomes a congressional argument, and they have to somehow, some way get a bill on the table that goes to the desk of President Trump, first of all, I'm not sure that's going to happen. I think you may get another Cory Booker moment. Remember Cory Booker a couple months ago when he spoke for like 24 hours straight? Excuse me. You may get one of those again to filibuster and stop the vote from happening. So if it forces Congress to amend the Voting Rights Act, this will be they're going to run wild with this. All your favorite Democrat politicians in Congress are going to run wild with this one. All the senators and all the representatives are going to run wild on this one. Voting Rights Act, you're disenfranchising black and brown people. You're hurting minorities. This is racist. This is Donald Trump's administration just trying to help out the old white man, his billionaire friends. All the stuff y'all been hearing for the last 10 years will get multiplied by 15 if it gets to this point. And Congress may need to pass a new remedial framework, especially if courts construe Section 2 as overreaching. So that's why this is a big deal. This is just the beginning of what might be a huge deal, depending on how this goes. So legislative action may be required to preserve minority protections. The issue is, right now, Congress, as it stands, would they pass this? What do y'all think? Yes or no? Here's the question. Given how Congress is right now, we know there's majority Republican in the House and the Senate. If it goes to the Voting Rights Act to where they're basically saying they want to codify these minority protections to where you can redistrict a map to keep it majority of a minority, basically giving the Democrats, this basically long story short, giving the Democrats more voting power in certain districts. Do you think Congress would pass that right now as it's currently constructed? I hope y'all understand the question. The current Congress is majority Republican in the Senate, majority Republican in the House of Representatives. Would they pass an amendment to the Voting Rights Act to basically give minorities stronger districts, which basically would give Democrats more votes? Now to frame the question that way is pretty easy to know the answer to this, regardless of what sides you're on. The answer is hell no. They're not going along with this. This is not happening. So only chance the Democrats have here is winning enough in 2026 that they have the power to where they can have that passed through Congress. But then they got another problem. Any bill that gets passed through Congress still has to go to the desk of who? The president. And unless the president signs it, it doesn't become law. So Donald Trump ain't signing that. So Democrats got a couple problems here. Democrats got more than one problem. They got three problems, actually. Let me tell you the three problems that Democrats have. Actually, they got four. One is they got to get the Supreme Court to rule in their favor. That's the first problem they got to solve. They have not solved that yet. Two is that they will have to get enough power in 2026 to where they can even get this bill on the desk of the president, which means they got to take over the House and the Senate in the midterms in 2026. That's the second problem they got to solve. Three is that Donald Trump is still the president. So even if they were able to get the bill through Congress into the desk of the president, Donald Trump's going to veto the bill. Vetoing the bill, for those who don't know, whenever Congress wants to make a new law, they create a bill. The bill goes to the desk of the president. If the president signs it, it becomes the law. If the president doesn't sign it, also known as a veto, he's basically saying no, and he sends it back to them to try to change it around in any way and then make it into a law if he decides to sign it. But if he doesn't want to sign it, then it never happens. So that's the third issue, is that Donald Trump is still the president. So even if Democrats get control of both sides in 2026, yes, they can block Donald Trump from getting anything done, but at the same time, they can't get anything done because he will block them. So basically, we're going to get a stalemate in the government, and nothing's going to happen between 2026 and 2028 if the Democrats get control of Congress, because nobody's going to cooperate with the other side. That's their third problem. Here's the fourth problem, that if they do want to get this passed, they can just wait until 2028, technically 2029. If a Democrat wins the White House, let's say the new president is Kamala Harris, let's imagine that, or is Gavin Newsom, right now they're the top two. Let's say one of them is the president in 2029, the Democrats can then go to the president and say, okay, now sign this bill into law, which would happen. The problem is there's more elections in 2028 than just the president. They gotta maintain control of Congress in 2028. So they not only have to win in 2026, they also have to win in 2028 to maintain their control. And they need the president to win. They need a Democrat president in 2028. So the Democrats have several things that have to go right in order for this to ever happen. And it's not looking good for them. That's the way I see this. Now, could all those things happen? Yes, they could. That could happen. Now, are all those things going to happen? That'd be like a parlay bet. This is like a parlay bet that they got to win 3 times. 2026 Congress, 2028 Congress, and 2028 president. They got to win all 3. You lose one, you lose the whole thing. So any of you know anything about gambling, that's how a parlay works. Parlay is when you bet on multiple things at the same time, and if they all win, you win a lot of money. But if one of them goes wrong, you lose everything. So right now they're parlaying. Democrats need a big parlay to hit. And if they win a lot of money. But if they lose all their money. What y'all think is going to happen? Y'all think Democrats going to win or lose? So when I say win, I mean they got to win all 3. 2026 Congress, 28 Congress, and 28 president. Or if you say no, that means they're going to lose at least one of those 3. What do y'all think? Win or lose? Win means they got to win all 3. 26 Congress, 28 Congress, and 28 president. And no means, or lose means they lose at least one of those 3. If they lose at least one of those 3, they got a problem. Actually, technically, there's a way they can still win. So I said lose bigly. Actually, there's a way they can still win. There's one other way they can win, is that they can fall flat on this right now with the Supreme Court. They can lose in 2026, but in 2028, if they win Congress and president, they could just bring this conversation up again. That could happen. We can't forget about that possibility. So they do have another way they can win where they only got to win twice. If they lose 2026 midterms, or they don't get enough power to do anything, in 2028, we could have a flip of what we got right now. So again, all you MAGA supporters, Trump supporters, Republicans, Don't get cocky. Don't get cocky. 2028 ain't that far away. The Democrats could technically take control of the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2028. And then they could do whatever they want to do. Now, something like this would happen. So those of you who think voting doesn't matter, it matters. If you think talking about this stuff doesn't matter, it matters, because people hear this kind of stuff and they make their decisions based on the stuff that they heard. So it matters a lot. So right now it's Republican everything, but 3 years from now, it could be Democrat everything. Or not 3 years from now, 3.5, let's say, because it'll be January of 2029. It could be Democrat everything. So again, you conservatives out there, don't get cocky. Now, political division may block reforms. So if Congress is gridlocked, i.e. Democrat on one side, Republican on the other side, or they just can't get along, whatever reason, minority protections may erode before a new law arrives. So the problem for all of this is that this might just fizzle out and not be a story anymore about 2028. That's the problem the Democrats have. So even if they did win 2028, both sides, they might not care anymore. Nobody may care about this case anymore. The case may just die on the vine. And even though Democrats have power, they can't revive this, so they can't move anything through. They can't push anything through. And even if you want to get something done and you have control, complete control, you still need some support from the other side of the aisle. This is the system of checks and balances that was brilliantly designed by the founding fathers of the United States of America so that no side can ever have complete control. So right now there's a government shutdown happening. Now, how can there be a government shutdown when the Republicans control everything? Because in order for the government to continue running smoothly, you still need some support from the other side of the aisle. So even if the Democrats get complete control, they still need some Republicans to agree with them. And if they can't get that, then nothing happens. And the balancing out of this is, here's the political game of it, is if you work in Congress right now and you're a Democrat and you won't support anything the Republicans want to do because you're just trying to basically filibuster and stop them, colloquially filibuster them from getting anything done. Well, the problem is if the Democrats get control in 2028, let's say the president and they have Congress, both sides of Congress, then the Republicans are going to remember that. They're going to remember, hey, remember what they did to us when Trump was president? Okay, now we're not going to help them. Even though, let's say I'm a Republican in the House of Representatives or I'm a senator, and I saw how y'all stalemated me when we had control of everything because you're just trying to play politics. Okay, what do you think I'm going to do when y'all got control of everything? I'm going to do the same thing to you that you did to me. Now, I'm not going to help you either. You didn't help us when we wanted to get something done because you wanted to play politics. So I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to help the Republicans. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to you. So now nothing gets done. And let's remember the common theme here, folks. Who's getting screwed in the process of all of this? You are. Because we voted for these people, but they're playing politics. Democrats won't help the Republicans. And now Republicans don't help the Democrats. Nothing gets done. Nobody moves forward, but you're getting older every single day. Your kids are growing. Your kids are going to school. You're paying taxes. Costs of groceries are going up. You got to pay bills. All right, all of these things are still happening while they're getting nothing done. All right, these are the people who we voted for. This is the reason why you don't trust politicians. Do not trust, believe in, or depend on politicians. This is the game that they're in. And the government was not designed to work this way, but this is where we are. It was not designed to happen like this, but this is the way it's happening right now. It wasn't even supposed to be a full-time job. If the government wasn't a full-time job and you had term limits, then that would solve a lot of 80% of this problem would be solved if we took care of those two things. Government is no longer a full-time job. You can't do it for your whole life. So bye-bye Nancy Pelosi. Bye-bye Bernie Sanders. Bye-bye. Who else is in there? Has been in there forever. Well, we would have already said bye to Joe Biden. All these mofos would be gone. 2 terms and you're out. It's supposed to be a volunteer job that you did on the weekends. On the weekends, I mean that tongue-in-cheek, kind of like coaching your kid's soccer team. You coach your kid's soccer team because your kid's on the team. When your kid gets too old to be on the soccer team, you leave and somebody else coaches the soccer team. That's the way it's supposed to go. But now these people have been in here for 50 years. How long Bernie Sanders been trying to fight the oligarchy? 40 years. Has he won? He's been losing to the oligarchy for 40 years, and he's still going on tour selling books. This is not the way the government was supposed to work. Term limits, and don't let it be a full-time job. Because if it wasn't a full-time job, these mofos would have to actually go do something to provide value to the community that they allegedly represent. Now, all they got to do is work in Congress. That's their full-time job, working in Congress. What exactly are you doing? Most of you can't even answer the question. What are they doing? What's Bernie Sanders doing right now, today? What's he doing? He's going on his next tour stop to sell you some more books and tell you how the oligarchy is destroying America, while the oligarchy has continued to get bigger from the very moment he first mentioned it in 1987. Yet he's fighting the oligarchy and selling you books about how to fight the oligarchy. He's been fighting it for 40 years and losing. And that's what he's doing. And we're paying him. So would you sign up for the government? Would you sign up for that job? I mean, it's a pretty easy job. Sounds like to me. Different conversation for a different day. All that said, folks, we're going to get into our commentary. I do need to take a quick restroom break. Give me 90 seconds here, folks, and then we'll get to some of our favorite sounds, like strawberry cheesecake, and some of our other favorite sounds, like
you're not that guy, pal. Trust me, you're not that guy. Okay.
And one of our others. Give me 90 seconds. I'll be right back.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
All right, I'm back. Let's get to it. Commentary time. O-Dog on YouTube said, Kamala was never sharp. She was just never pressed. Okay, fair enough point. I think when she was questioning Brett Kavanaugh, she had her questions written down. Okay, that's a fair enough argument. And she was a prosecutor, so, I mean, she doesn't have a problem reading prepared statements. Contract, franchise, universal voting was the downfall of America. Everybody shouldn't be voting. Okay. Interesting. I've heard many people say that, though. Interesting. Voting duties should be earned. Notice I didn't say right. Okay, duties. So O-Dog says voting is a duty, not a right. Not something that you're owed just because. And he says, Israel matters heard in the Republican Party. Okay. Then Unbreakable says, every person has the same right to vote. The exact same right. Well, yes, every person does have the same right to vote. I don't think I said that they didn't. A lot of people don't vote because they don't get excited about the candidate. To get people to vote, you got to get them excited about you. If people are not excited, they won't vote at all. They just won't show up. A lot of people think that it's, well, I don't know what a lot of people think about that. Brian 3 then, good morning, said, could there be a purple party one day? Well, maybe if Elon Musk said he's going to start the American Party. So let's see if he does that. Brian said, my live on Facebook. Yes, Facebook/Work on Your Game University is my Facebook page. Robert Vilas from Tampa. Good morning. Shout out to Tampa. Tampa's a beautiful place. Shout out to Carrollwood. And Brian said, what's the solution? The solution to what? Which problem? There's a lot of problems I've addressed here. They don't all have simple solutions. Solutions were very simple, then they would have already been solved. Apollo said, Democrats are wolves in sheep's clothing. Well, that's the same thing that Democrats say about Republicans. Nate said, Dune, who's Dune? So, no, I have not read Dune. I don't know if that's what you meant to say. Elect Ball said, MAGA's going to win in 2028. We'll see. It's too early. Serenity said, I feel like my vote didn't matter in Washington State. Democratic governor keeps getting voted in. Well, the good news for anyone who feels like their vote doesn't matter these days is that you can do more than vote. You can get out and start talking to people about their choices so that they're more informed, and then you can impact more than just one vote. That's the good news about today, is that back in the day, you could just go vote and that was pretty much it. Actually, back in the day, you could do this too. But now you can reach a lot more people a lot more easily. Like right now, I'm talking to a couple hundred people, and I'm doing it from the comfort of my own home. So any of you could do this these days and get your message out to 2, 3, 4, 5 people, or 500 or 5,000 or 5 million people. And then you can influence the way other people vote, not just your vote, but other people's votes. So that's the good news about where we're at today. And this is where independent media has become more popular or more powerful. And this is the reason why the Democrats were very upset about independent media after November 5th, 2024, because they realized that independent media helped Donald Trump win that election. Ricochet Rabbit said, vote for whomever you feel will do the better job. Okay, fair enough. Alex G said, Vincent Company. Who is Vincent Company? I've had a couple people mention this person's name. I guess some people are trying to intimate that I look like this guy. So let me look him up. He better be a good looking guy. So I'm going to look up Vincent Company. Vincent Company. Who is this guy? Vincent Company is a Belgian Association football player and manager. Former player who played as a center back. He's currently the head coach of Bundesliga club Bayern Munich. Known for his physicality, tackling style, and composure, Company is widely regarded as one of the greatest defenders in Premier League history. He's also known for his 11 seasons at Man City, 8 of which he served as captain. Company also represented the Belgian national team for 15 years and served as captain. So Vincent Company, he was a good athlete. Okay, so I'll take that as a compliment. I'm a good athlete too. He's probably more famous than me, but this is Vincent Company. This is who people are trying to say I look like this guy. Let me pull up this picture. This guy? This is an insult. Y'all got to come up with somebody better looking than this guy. This is Vincent Company. Vincent, I'm sure you were a great football player, but no, there's no comparison here. Vincent Company. I look like this guy. Look at this guy. This is Vincent Company. I resent the implication. Vincent Company. No, I don't like this. Y'all gotta compare me to somebody different.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Apollo Lou said, almost sounds like the 8 years under Obama. Live Free, good morning. Live Free said, no monopoly is good. No, not unless it's one that you own yourself. Those monopolies are good, but nobody else is having a monopoly is good. That is correct. Apollo said, Malcolm X said it best. Malcolm X said a lot of good things. Michelle Hall, good morning. Elect Balls, thanks for the follow. Brian said, what has conservatives done for anyone? Why do people always make these very broad, sweeping points about either side politically? But my argument has always been you don't want to wait for either side to do anything for you. So I don't have an answer to that question, but I don't need an answer to the question. Live Free said, the country's in debt. That means both of them are horrible. I don't know if one leads to the other, but I do believe both of them suck. And the country's in debt, but I'm not sure one is the reason for the other one. Apollo said, they don't earn the vote, they assume it. Yeah, with certain groups. The Democrats assume black people are going to vote for them. And for the most part, they're right. James DeGraw, thanks for the follow. Barry Weber said, you're correct. That's why I've always stayed independent. I vote for the man or woman, not the party. That's a better way of looking at it. Yes. Elect Ball said, host, you vote for Trump. Are you asking me or telling me? Depending on how you're saying that, then I might need to pull out my soundboard. Mike Davis said, what do Republicans offer black voters? What do Democrats offer black voters? Mike?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Turley Stampleton, thank you for the repost. 21 says, Trump is up and everybody. Carmelo wasn't helping everybody. I think he meant Kamala. W. Coward, 1972, said, actually, black men did vote for former Vice President Harris, yeah, but only 76%. About a quarter more of black women voted for Kamala than black men. So she lost a lot of the black male vote. And losing that black male vote hurt her chances of winning the election. IDK said the problem with Kamala had no real policies besides reproductive rights. Well, she had a lot of talking points is what she had. And you're right. But at the same time, she did put out policy. It's not so much about the policy. And people tend to say that because policy is the logical arguments. And even Trump, when it came to policy, people don't vote for people based on their policies. We act like we vote for people based on policies. That's not why we vote for people. We vote for people based on if we know them, if we feel like we know them, if we like them, and if we believe them. Those are the three things we vote based on. Kamala Harris didn't feel like people quite knew her because she feels plastic. Number two, I felt a lot of people didn't like her because she feels classy. And number three, people didn't believe her because she sounded too scripted. So those are the three problems Kamala had. Donald Trump's policies, well, where he stands is pretty clear because he was president already. It was make America first. We're not focusing on other countries. If I do get involved in any foreign things, what it's doing, I'm going to make America more powerful, pull us out of other people's business. We're not going to be solving other people's problems or spending our money on other countries anymore. I will solve wars if there is one so that we don't get into any new ones. We're going to focus on America and focus on bringing jobs and money back to America. And we're going to keep people who don't have proper documentation out of our country. That's what Donald Trump was about. Those are his 3 points. You don't need to read policy or understand policy to understand that that's what he's about. And people believed him. That's why Donald Trump won. People believed that he really was going to do those things. Even if you didn't like what he was going to do, you believed he was going to do it. That's what made him a quality candidate and why Kamala lost. People didn't believe her. But it's not really about policy. Policy is just a small detail. Queen said, I've never seen Kamala be on point or sharp. Well, she was a prosecutor, so she had to have been sharp enough. Again, as a prosecutor, you kind of are in control. So it's not like there's a question of, is it you or the other person? When she was going against Trump, it was her versus him. When she was in the primary, it was her versus 8 other people. When you're a prosecutor, you run things. Somewhat. I mean, you're still going against the other side's attorney, but you pretty much can run things. And she was the attorney general as well. So it's not like she was even in court arguing cases. She was just bringing cases and basically wagging her finger at people. That's what you do when you're the attorney general. Look at Pam Bondi. She doesn't argue cases. You don't argue cases when you're an AG. So, Frank, thank you for the share. Monica Pyle says, so Trump seemed believable enough that hasn't done anything for y'all. You are delusional.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
All right, so we got
Strawberry cheesecake.
So Monica said, so, first of all, usually when someone's using a straw man, the strawberry cheesecake.
Strawberry cheesecake.
This is straw man sound. So someone uses straw man. This is a common logical fallacy. Most common one you hear in disagreement. When someone hears something that they don't like, then they rephrase your point to something that you did not say. Then they argue against the thing that you didn't even say. They often use the word so to start off their statement. So it's a common tell for the straw man when someone uses the word so. That means they're about to repurpose your statement into their version of it, which is the straw man. It's easy to beat up a straw man than it is to beat up a real person. So Monica Powell says, so Trump seemed believable, even though he hasn't done anything for y'all. Who is y'all? First of all, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. So I don't know who y'all is. He's not president just to some people. He's president to everybody.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
And then you say, you are delusional. I'm delusional? What am I delusional about?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
That's the ad hominem. And then you got the straw man, and hasn't done anything for y'all. This is also this kind of a loaded statement because there's no y'all. Again, you become president, you're president of everybody. So you get, Monica, congratulations. You get the first Russell Westbrook triple-double award of the day. 3 fallacies in 1 statement.
Oh, baby, it's triple. Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, Monica. W. Coward said, I used to watch her all the time, and she was on point. That's what I heard. I heard she was on point. L. Johnson said drinking. So does Kamala Harris even drink? W. Coward said she became a politician. And then Queen said she was never on point. Then Mike LeBlanc said, you're a Republican.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Federal court said, Dems know they got black votes, so doing nothing for us. Reps know they don't, so do nothing for us. Okay, fair enough argument. Elect Boss said, give Trump his credit. MAGA won and is still winning. Well, we know he won. We already know that. We don't have to give him credit for that. We know. Federal said, legal precedent can always be challenged. It's never set, just set for the moment. Yes, right. And then if a bunch of other states go and follow that legal precedent and start doing stuff, then it creates this momentum effect. And that's the issue, because then you would still have to challenge it. You had to do another court case, another lawsuit filed. It would be a whole lot of red tape just to even challenge it. That's why those precedents matter. Leah, thanks for the Go Popular. We're 83,000 likes, folks, to get to 100K. Wifey Tips, good morning. Thank you. Cedars, thanks for the share. Federal says, so just run black Republicans. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Like who, though? Bill said, blacks don't necessarily equal Republicans these days. No, I don't think that. Taylor Epperly said, I wish we could dissolve both parties and start over. I think they are both corrupt. Well, I agree with you. It's not even so much that the parties are corrupt, Taylor. It's the system is corrupt and the parties are just part of the system. Our governmental system is shit. That's the problem. Again, it wasn't designed to be what it is. It was designed to be people who worked, everyday people who had full-time jobs, careers, and businesses. People like us who are watching this and talking right now. We would be the government. Then every couple of weeks, it's the same way that if you know anything about the board of directors at a company. You could be on the board of directors at a company. That board might meet quarterly. Once every 3 months, everybody comes together and they meet. Y'all go meet in Denver, or you go meet in Detroit, or you meet in New York. And y'all meet, and there's 24 of you or 30 of you or 10 of you, and y'all have a whole bunch of conversations about the future of the company. You vote on what you're going to do. Here, we're going to fire the CEO. We're going to give everybody a raise. We're going to restructure the company this way. We're going to hire these consultants to help us out. Y'all make all these decisions over the course of like a day or 3 days or a week. Then everybody goes back home and goes back to running your real life and your real business and doing your real job. And then 3 months later, you come back and you do it again. That's the way the government was supposed to work directionally. It was supposed to be like that. And if you're on a board of directors, you do get money, but it's not enough money that it could be your full-time job. So you might get $20,000 for being on the board of directors. If it's a bigger company, maybe it's $100,000. If it's a smaller company, maybe it's $5,000. But you would get some money for your time and effort and for your expertise, but not enough that you didn't need to do anything else in order to take care of your food, clothing, and shelter. And that's what the government was supposed to be. So when we made it a full-time job, first of all, giving people enough money, they didn't have to do anything else to contribute to society. That was the first problem. Second problem was we allowed them to gather in Washington, D.C. That's where the corruption happens, because you put them all in the same place. And now you can get the lobbyists can come in there and everybody's in one place. That's the swamp that Donald Trump was talking about draining. And that was the second problem. And when you put those two together, that's all you need to turn the whole system into garbage. And that's where we are right now. So the first thing D.C. can do is get rid of D.C. The problem with getting rid of DC is that the people who would have to okay getting rid of DC are the people who are in DC. That's draining the swamp. And that's the reason why Trump got so much pushback. Trump didn't get pushback because of anything he said he was going to do to or for the citizens. He got pushback because he said he was going to drain the swamp, which meant all those DC people whose whole career is based on hanging around Washington, D.C. and doing shit for themselves to make money. He was going to dismantle that. That's why they hate him. It's not because of anything else. Leah, good morning. Anastasia, thank you for the heart. Thanks for the lightning bolt, Leah. CC said, I think it's ridiculous to say that just because you're white, you're going to vote Republican. Yes, it's also ridiculous to say just because you're black, you're going to vote Democrat. But this is the argument that they're making. And the point I'm making, CC, is that this argument might work. That's the whole point. Matt said, remap it however you want. No one voting for the shit show anymore. Oh, yes, they are. Matt, I'll push back on you on that one. Yes, they are. Stuntism says the act is unconstitutional. Technically, I agree with you, but the Supreme Court may disagree. Nicole Marie said Republicans are not going to vote for that. I agree, but it's not in their hands right now. Tillman Gibbons was going on. Federal court said, isn't that already in the Voting Race Act? It might be. It's not one of the things I brought up here today. The Voting Rights Act, I think you mean. They would have to amend it. They would have to make an amendment to the act. If that happens, again, this is all hell is going to break loose. I don't know if it's going to go that far, so we'll see. Tyler said, can't wait for the 2026 votes to be outrageously rigged. By who and for who? Blind Demon said, you're telling the truth. Thank you. Marky Mark said, the Voting Rights Act was done by Republicans, not Democrats. Well, it was done by the government. It's not even about one side owning it. It's a law. So it was signed in with help from both sides, because you got to get people on both sides agreeing. Bad Ice said, Democrats' problem is they can't find anyone with common sense in America is tired of their BS. Okay, interesting. But I think Gavin Newsom has a chance to win, whether you think he has common sense or not. That's what really matters. Federal court said, I thought the court case was to reverse race-based gerrymandering. Well, yeah, that's what I said. That is what they're claiming that they're trying to do, because they're trying to draw different maps. So the argument is about which map do we draw? Do we draw a map that's based on our traditional standards, or do we draw a map based on race? That's what really this comes down to. The argument on one side is, hey, you're trying to block certain races. The argument on the other side is, well, we're just doing things the way it's supposed to be done, regardless of race. So one argument is we should make the map based on race because that will help us balance out the race issue. And the other argument is, well, we're not going to balance out the race issue. What we're going to do is draw a map how it's supposed to be drawn, and however it goes, it goes. So the Supreme Court gets to decide between the logical argument or the emotional argument, is the way I see it. Tillman says, sounds like a stalemate. Well, you're right, Tillman. That's why we got a government shutdown. That is a stalemate. Jeff Johnson said, I can't imagine. You talking about Kamala? Oh, you better imagine it because it might happen. I don't think people can appreciate how close we were to Kamala being president right now. She wasn't that far from winning. I mean, she lost every swing state, but it's not like she got blown out in every swing state. She just lost. It wasn't that. I mean, it was a blowout, but it wasn't at the same time, if that makes sense. Rosa Nicosia says, I have many friends that are white that voted Democrat. It should not be about race. It should be about who's qualified. Well, Rosa, you're correct. In a perfect world, that is what it would be about. But in the real world,
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
now white people, there's many more of you than there is black people. But black people tend to vote majority Democrat. Even again, a weak candidate like Kamala Harris still got 76% of the male black vote. Female vote, she got like 97%. So very few black females voted against Kamala. But males, she lost a good amount, and that's one of the main reasons why she lost, period. And Barack Obama had like 95% male and female twice, which is the reason why he won. He dominated his home base. You got to dominate your home base. If you're black, you got to win all the black voters. If you're black, you can't get black votes, you got a problem. That's also an issue for a black person running as a Republican because so many black people have been conditioned to vote Democrat. If you're black trying to run as a Republican, there's a lot of black votes you're not going to get. And you already know it's already built in. There's a bunch of white votes you're not going to get. But there are people in America who will not vote. There are white people who will not vote for a black person. And there are black people who will not vote for a Republican, regardless of who the person is. These are realities that we all need to accept. Terry Lynn said a big F no. Alasdair Boswell said, I think they'd win in a fair election. Who are you talking about? Judy Mitchell said, lose no way they get complete control of Congress. They might, Judy. Why are you so sure? There's no way they get complete control of Congress? Really? I think there is a way. There's very much a way. James said they can't win without cheating. I don't know about that. They didn't cheat for Barack Obama to win. After Obama twice, you got Trump. Then you got the 2020, which was shenanigans because of the virus and the what do they call it? The mail-in voting. That was shenanigans. 2024, you got back to regular elections. You had Trump on a revenge tour, and you had a terrible candidate in Kamala. Now, 2028, we'll see. But there is definitely a way they can win without cheating, James. Some of you conservatives sounding real cocky right now. I would suggest y'all simmer down. Some of you conservatives getting a little bit arrogant. Tyler, I am not a lawyer. I just play one on TikTok. I have not passed the bar. I've never taken a law class in my life. I just understand things. Once I understand things, I have a good ability to break things down and explain them. That's my superpower. But I am not a lawyer. Denton, Texas Patriot said, Dems are losing support every day. We need to make them feel welcome. Well, they're losing support from who? They still got support from a lot of people. Kamala Harris is on book tour right now. We talked about it yesterday. She's selling out. Well, she's selling a lot of tickets. Her tickets are like $100 a piece. And a lot of them $200, $300, $500. And people are buying those tickets. Those are not all bots buying those tickets, folks. That's not just, what's that guy's name? Soros. He ain't the only one buying those tickets. There are actual humans buying those tickets. Limitless said, Democrat everything is a terrifying thought. Well, it wasn't that long ago. We had Democrat everything. Limitless, you're terrified? Michelle, good morning. Mark said, do you really believe Democrats will win the presidency, House, and Senate? No, I didn't say I believe it can happen. I said it's a possibility it could happen. If the Republicans can do it, why can't the Democrats do it? I think many of you have recency bias right now because the Republicans are dominating right now because they got Trump, they got the House, and they got the Senate. But you think that can't happen the other way? That absolutely can happen. A good enough candidate on the Democrat side, a big enough negativity on the Republican side, and or a weak candidate on the Republican side, that absolutely can happen. Some of you Republicans are getting real cocky right now. I would suggest y'all simmer down. And the best time to feel confident is when things are going crazy. And the best time to get conservative, quote unquote, is when things are going well. All right, when things are going well, tighten up your bootstraps. Federal court said, unless they have a supermajority, Obama had a supermajority and did nothing with it. Yeah, so there you go. Obama was not that long ago. All right, all of you over the age of 12, right? Okay, so Obama had a majority and he did what he did. So DHMG rights. Rights is in civil rights, not rights. Rights. Michi said simple majority. Okay. Yes, tap the screen, everybody. We're at 100K likes. Thank you, everybody. Keep tapping the screen. Allison said McConnell. Yeah, get McConnell out of there, too. He's another one. Nicole said term limits need to be put in place. So here's the issue with term limits. The only way it happens is if Congress votes for it. The problem is if Congress votes for term limits, those people are voting to fire themselves. They're not going to do it. The only other way is that you have to have, this is other way it can happen, but it's never happened before, is that all the states will have to have elections. And each state, out of the 50 states, you got to get like 34, 2/3 got to vote in favor of having a special, I forget the term for it. I looked it up several months ago. We talked about it here. And they would have a special election, basically. And all the states would have to vote in favor of term limits, and then term limits would exist. That's the only way they could do it without Congress. But Congress is not going to vote for term limits because a bunch of people in Congress would be voting to get themselves fired if they agreed to term limits. So that's the issue with term limits. It's a great idea. The problem is, how do we do it? Who's going to put the bell around the cat's neck? Ethan Clevenger said, I remember the Hoop YouTube videos. Shout out to people who remember the YouTube videos back in the day. Allison said, I saw Pelosi being walked out holding on to an aide, too old. Well, yeah, she'll be all right. She got enough money. She could pay for those aides. She could pay for a couple of them. Shout to Nancy Pelosi's bank account. Whiskey Girl Stacy says, Sanders is oligarchy. I agree with that. Kevin says, Sanders is a billionaire. So I heard some people say he's a millionaire. So you're saying he's a billionaire. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but I heard many people assert that he's a millionaire. O-Dog said, I heard there was some BS during the 2012 election on the Republican side. I don't know. O-Dog said, Constitutional Convention. Yeah, that's what they would need to do. 3/4 of the governors, and the states will have to come together and vote for it. The problem is, for the states to come together and do that, you think the senators and the Republicans, not the Republicans, the congressional representatives are not going to call the governors and try to call in some favors to not let that happen. That's the reason why we don't have term limits. I don't see it happening. Judy Mitchell said fundraising with AOC. Yeah, that's what Bernie Sanders is doing right now. Bernie Sanders is out fundraising with AOC. And Bernie is a senator, right? And AOC is a representative. What are they doing for the places they represent while they're out doing that tour? The answer is nothing. Michi said Mitch fell and had to be walked out too. Yeah, I saw that. I made a joke about that. Mitch McConnell slipping and falling yesterday because there was a reporter there asking him a question about ice. And then he fell. And I said he slipped on ice. Get it? PTU said Mitch McConnell can't even walk anymore. Yeah, he really can't. He needs to retire. He needs to go join Joe Biden at the beach. Schumer, Pelosi, AOC, Pelosi, Sanders, Mitch. Yes, we need term limits and age. Well, AOC ain't been around that long. She might still be in safe zone, but the rest of them, yes. The rest of them can go. Toadette said McConnell's always falling down. He needs to go. Yeah, he is. Mitch McConnell needs to join Joe Biden. Him and Joe Biden need to hang out. Ethan said, real ones remember it. Yes, you're right, Ethan. Becca, good morning. Data Man said, I guess democracy only works when we act like adults, not petulant children. Well, democracy, quote unquote, works in that, let's remember what democracy is. It basically means majority rules. So you can act like a petulant child and still have democracy. It's not working smoothly. It's not working smoothly and getting rational outcomes. I think that's really what you mean there, Data Man. I get what you're saying. I got to catch up in the comments. I lost my spot in a moment. Sometimes TikTok automatically refreshes the comments and I lose my spot. Nana, yes, tap the screen. Thank you, everybody. Justice Scroller said he is the oligarchy that he's trying to fight. Well, that's a great hustle for Bernie Sanders because that shit been working for 40 years. Nathan Don said 65 seconds a day. Thank you for the timing. Miss B said, don't vote Democrat or Republican, vote whatever who can do the most for the country. Fair enough. Anastasia, thanks for the lightning bolt. Nicole says solution is to become informed and vote. Well, Nicole, the issue is, what do you mean by informed? Informed is a loaded term. How do you know when someone's informed? Be better. Thanks for the follow. Better than Earl Spence. Vanessa said, you look nothing like him. I don't think I look like him either. He looks like a caricature of me. Like if you were trying to make a caricaturized version of me, you get Vincent Company. I don't look like him. Katie said you look closer to a young Will Smith. All right, Will Smith's a pretty good looking guy. I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. Batman said Vince Carter. Glenn Smith, thanks for the follow. Big Shot said they saying it's the haircut. What is a shave? This is not a haircut. This is a shave. I shave every day. Michelle said no comparison with that guy at all. Looks like, yeah, no comparison. I agree. Nathan Don became the new title gifter of Rose. Congrats, Nathan Don. Thanks for the share as well. Glenn Smith said Obama should have pardoned Mutulu Shakur. President, do or vote count no JFK. Proof of that. Glenn Smith, I don't quite know what you said there. I got the first half of it. I don't remember. I don't get the rest. Tyler Mills says she was so unbelievable. Yeah, Kamala was not. She was not relatable. That's the problem. You got to be relatable and likable. You're going to be president. Rick says she appeared intoxicated. Now, see, I don't know because I don't know what she looks like normal, so I wouldn't know if she was intoxicated. So I got to know her baseline to know what the intoxicated version of her sounds like. So I can't tell. Taylor said, unless that country is maybe. Marwa said, you think Trump's tariffs is good for the economy? Well, what part of the economy? I think it's good for one side of the economy. It can be a challenge for other sides of the economy. But all in all, it is what it is what I would say. Because he is the president. He was voted president. He gets to do what he wants to do because we voted for him. Diesel said, what you see is what you get, and you have to respect that. You talking about Trump? Yeah. So people, well, they don't have to respect it, but I think everybody believes it. That's what I would say. But heck, thanks for the share. Christy, thank you for the Go Popular and the hearts. Momo AZ, thanks for the rose. Glenn Smith said, we give up our energy to disconnected. Europe is going digital chip to buy and sell revelations. Laura said, yes, she drinks. Okay. Thank you for confirming. 80 Deuce Air said, just work and listen like your content makes sense. So I appreciate it. Laura said, have you not heard her slur? And somebody got to show me a side-by-side of her talking normal and her talking when she's intoxicated. Because how do you know when she's intoxicated? That's the issue. How do you know? Christy says she drinks a little too much. Can we meet the live goal? Yes, can we meet the live goal? Leah, thank you for reminding people. Kuya, Ben, and Heather, thanks for the gifts. Scorpio said, your misinformation is sad. Wake up. Oh, I forgot. Trump wants you to not be woke.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Strawberry cheesecake.
Congrats, Scorpio Joe. You get the Angel Reese Double Award. Fishing Fan, thanks for the follow. Anastasia, thanks for the lightning bolts. Hillary Badillery said, is the Voting Rights Act being voted on? Has it reached SCOTUS? Well, it's not being voted on. It's going to be decided on. And SCOTUS is listening to arguments right now. I don't know if they're actually taking, I think they're deciding if they're going to take this on as a case. I guess that's the step that they're at right now. So we'll see what they decide, if they decide to actually hear the entire case. That's where we're at right now. Robert said, what are black voting rights? It should be black voting rights. So in the title, I can't change the title once it starts. So it's black voting rights. Rights is in civil rights. Glenn Smith said, Human Nature is Problems, a movie. Glenn Smith, I'm not sure what you're saying here. You made a couple comments, but I'm not understanding you. Andy Coase said their big money comes from corruption and bribes and money laundering. It comes from our money. Who's they? Tim Wilcox, thanks for the follow. Heather, thanks for the rose. Take chances, live life. Thank you. Fishing Fan said, you have great eyes for facts. What do you do professionally? Well, Fishing Fan, thank you for the compliment. What I do professionally, I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you master 85% of communication that is nonverbal so that the other 15% is a piece of cake. Like a
Strawberry cheesecake.
Not strawberry cheesecake the way I use it here, but since I said that, that's why I said it. But I appreciate the compliment. What I do, we run a coaching consulting company. We help people step up their presence. Their presence is the unspoken communication that people pick up on you within the first 3 seconds of engaging with you online and offline. We help people master that so that when you do the rest of the communication, which we help people with as well, all it does is multiply the impression people already have of you, amongst other things. So we help people do that in their personal lives, their social lives, their dating lives, and their business lives. And we have different ways of doing it: books, courses, programs, coaching, etc. Scarlet Shadows said, that should scare everyone that Newsom could win. Well, get scared because he very much could win. Right now, he's the front runner for the Democrats. Christy said, do you think Chicago will finally flip red? Finally? Christy, what do you mean? Are they trying? I was unaware they were trying to flip red. And the answer is no, I do not think that. Hillary said, if the states that can gerrymander to the degree they can, who gains more seats? Well, the argument is that if the state of Louisiana can continue things how it has been and they can knock down the challenge, the argument is intimating that the Republicans would be able to dominate elections more than the Democrats. They're not saying that explicitly. So this is just a theory that's been intimated through the arguments, but they're not outwardly saying it right now, Hillary. Glenn Smith said, Columbus has a day for discovery of America, so we need to fix the lies first. Well, Columbus discovered America for the people in Europe because nobody in Europe knew about it before Columbus told them about it, or at least he didn't act on it until he told them about it. So I think Columbus still deserves credit. And he was a good enough salesperson that 500 years later, we're still talking about him. So I think that's an accomplishment as far as I'm concerned. Richard said, thank God she lost. Can you imagine what America would look like without open borders for 4 more? Yeah, it'd be crazy. It'd be the United Kingdom is what it would be. I heard there was this guy on the Megyn Kelly show a couple of days ago. He's from Australia, but I believe he lives in the UK. And they're talking about this, how in the United Kingdom, the name Noah, I believe the name Noah was the most popular name given to newborn babies in the UK for many years. But now, you know what the most popular name is in the UK for a newborn child right now? The most popular name in the UK right now for a newborn child is Muhammad. In the UK right now. Why? Because they've let a whole bunch of people into the country, specifically people who are Muslim. And it's not that anything is wrong with being Muslim, but they're losing the fabric of what their country actually is because they've allowed so many people from the outside come in. This is something I was talking about. We were talking about immigration even last year. And even certain cities in America, Dearborn, Michigan is one where, they passed it's either a new law or an ordinance or something like that, where 5 times a day, because Muslims pray 5 times a day. So now they can put out the call for prayer publicly for the whole city to hear it 5 times a day. And sometimes that prayer could be as early as like 3:30 in the morning. And the Muslims get up and they go pray, but they play the call for prayer out loud throughout the city so that everybody can hear it. So you could be sleeping at 3:30 in the morning and you hear the call for prayer. If you live in a town like Dearborn, there was another city that it was happening, and Minneapolis is having to happen too, because they're allowing so many people from outside to come in. And it's not that anything is wrong with being who you are, your color, your religion, your race, whatever. It's that our country is our country. We're not going to keep allowing so many people to come in who are not of this in order to change the fabric of what this is. And that is a strong argument for keeping things how they are. Now, the counter argument in the United States of America is that everybody's from somewhere else. So where do you draw the line? That's the argument. I say the line, I don't know the exact answer. I had to think about that for a while, but the line must be drawn. There must be a line. During the Biden-Harris administration, there was no line. And going to this comment that Richard just made, now Kamala Harris won that election in 2024. Our entire country would start to be looking like the UK because we'd be allowing so many people in. And it would start to displace, and it would start to change things a lot faster than it's changing already. Lorianne said, if you open that race door, don't leave it wide open for other things to be decided on race. Well, Lorianne, that's exactly what they're trying to do. So you're pulling on the right thread, but that's exactly what's going to happen if it occurs. Leather and Pearls, good morning. Federal court said Kamala did bad with black votes and female votes. Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know how she plans on getting them back if she runs again. She's going to run, though. That's happening. Scarlett said, black Republicans should run as a Democrat, then practice as a Republican when they get it. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't know. That person might not live to tell that story. Steve Albert said, yeah, for for real, the Conservative Party, best setback for a minute and relax. Federal court says she didn't do bad with black votes, it's worse than other Dems. Yeah, well, if you're a Dem, you got to win the black vote. I mean, you can't fail the black vote. Hi, HJY said, you are speaking truth on possibilities. Well, thank you. Yeah, Convention of States. A couple of you mentioned that. It would be a Convention of States in order to get that to happen. I don't see that happening. Marky Man said, Pelosi needs a person on each arm to hold her up. Well, she can afford it. She'll be all right. She made a ton of money on the stock market in these last 20 years. Shout out to Nancy Pelosi's stock trading. Ms. B. Rex, thanks for the heart. Kuya Ben Rashad, thanks for the goals, the gifts. Julie said, today is today and tomorrow is how you know. What does that mean? Scholar said, how about just voting rights? Yes, rights. It should be voting rights. So a few of you looking at the title and seeing the word lights, like lights that shine on the ceiling, it's supposed to be voting rights with an R. Nathan said the movie Jeremiah Johnson, I think you'll love it. No, Nathan, I don't really watch movies, so I don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah, Muhammad's the top name in the UK right now for new babies is Muhammad. Laura said, wake up, people. Yeah, well, this is what the UK wanted. Precision says that covered under freedom of religion. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. That city, Dearborn, Michigan, they can play the call to prayer 5 times a day. It could be as late as 11:30 at night or as early as 3:30 in the morning. So if you live there, you're not Muslim, you're going to hear it. Laura said we better start drawing. Well, they already drew them. They're just saying they can get away with it. Marky said you can thank Obama for Dearborn. Well, he can have something to do with it. Fair enough. Precision said, does it obstruct noise ordinances? Well, they overruled it. That's the whole point. I don't know exactly how they did it. I just noted that they did it. Leah, thanks for the gift. Kuya Ben, thanks for the gift. Bougie Farmer said, I live in Michigan. Dearborn has gotten scary. Not a place you want to be out at night. Oh, yeah? Okay. I can't confirm or deny that, but okay. Shy said, why do Democrats act like they own black votes? Shy, because they do. What do you mean? They're not acting. They do own black votes. Most black people are going to vote Democrat no matter what. Now, I'm not saying every black person, but most black people, if they vote, they're voting Democrat. And we all know it. Shy, you probably know it. If you're black, you know it. Look at your family members. Look at your cousins. You know it. Look at the people in the neighborhood you come from. Leah said, everybody send your daily heart me. Yes, follow what Leah said. Sage, thanks for joining the fan club. And the heart. Katarina, thanks for the hearts. Lori Ann says, because the mayor of Dearborn is Muslim. Oh, well, that's a good enough. That explains things pretty well. But also, who voted for him, though? Did they get a whole bunch of Muslims in and vote for him, or did some non-Muslims vote for him in Dearborn? Good luck, Dearborn. And good luck with that. In New York City, I mean, Zohran Mamdani's not Muslim, but what he's about to do is going to have similar effects on a much bigger city. So not similar effects, but it's going to be similarly, there's going to be similar, let's see, sensationalism about what he does if he does what he says he's going to do. If he is true to his word, what he says he's going to do, or at least trying to do it, New York City, y'all going to have some fun. When is the mayor election in New York City? I want to know because I don't even live in New York. I've never lived in New York, but I'm going to be paying attention to this. And it looks like Cuomo is going to lose. When is because Eric Adams already dropped out, right? And when does the new mayor get sworn in? Because New York, I'm going to be paying attention to that. I'm here for this New York thing. I'm here for this one. Federal court said, did you do a show on Stephen A. versus Jasmine Crockett? Neither one of them have enough substance for me to do a whole show on them. Neither one of them is worth 2 hours of time. I mentioned both of them at different times. Stephen A. has no substance, but he's very articulate, so he sounds smart to people who don't quite understand that he's not saying anything. And Jasmine Crockett has no substance, and she's not very articulate. So that's how I feel about both of them. Jasmine Crockett is good at playing the role that she plays. She's in politics, she's in Congress, and she's an anomaly in Congress because nobody else there like her. So she stands out. It's like being the only woman in a room full of men. All right, you don't even have to be that attractive. You're just the only woman. So, of course, you're going to get a bunch of attention. That's Jasmine Crockett right now in Congress and the things that she's saying. Stephen A. Smith is good for entertainment. He's an entertainer. He's not an informed person. He's an entertainer. He's not very intelligent. He is very articulate, but not intelligent. So he can say stuff that, again, to people who don't know anything, he sounds like he's smart because he's good at putting words together. But he doesn't know that he's not that informed on sports, let alone on politics. But he's a black guy. He's well known and he's well spoken. So when he gets in front of, let's say, a conservative people and he starts talking and he bashes the Democrats, they love it because a black person bashing the Democrats, wow, that's great. So they buy into it, even though he's not really saying anything. So that's the angle that Stephen A. Smith has. I saw him on a video the other day. He was bashing this guy, Bakari Sellers. Now, Bakari Sellers is a guy who's been in politics for a while, and he's a hardcore Democrat. And I think I follow Bakari on X. And Bakari doesn't really, I don't think he has much. I mean, he has his talking points, the things that he says. Let me see if I can find Bakari Sellers. Yeah, I'm following Bakari Sellers. Former South Carolina House of Representatives from 2006 to 2014. He works at a law firm. and he also works on CNN. He's a two-time New York Times bestseller. We talked about that yesterday. Not him, but two-time New York Times bestseller. And he wrote a book about my thoughts on the race reckoning that wasn't and how we all can move forward now. So he's a bit of a race hustler, black guy, Democrat, talking politics. We've seen this before. We've seen this movie before. Now, Bakari Sellers says some negative things about Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith came and clapped back at Bakari Sellers. And let me see if I can find it. Stephen A. Smith came and clapped back at Bakari Sellers and was basically saying, Bakari, you've been around way longer. More people want to hear me than want to hear you. I got more fans than you got. CNN would rather have me on the show than have you on the show. This is what Stephen A. said. Y'all want to hear this? Here's what he says.
Oh, what the truth is? Why don't you? What Bakari Sellers needs to recognize is why don't you tell what the truth is? Why don't you speak about the level of resentment that you really, really have? That the American people are more willing to listen to somebody like me or the others that you mentioned rather than you, who's been doing this for years, out of South Carolina and then some. Nobody care what you have to say. I'm giving you plug right now by talking about you. Because this is the kind of individual he is. I could come at somebody like that who chooses to be disrespectful. You know my number. You could have reached me a long time ago. We could have had discussions a long time ago. Only time you ever reached out to anybody is when you wanted to sell your book. So it doesn't matter to me what you've accomplished. It doesn't matter to me how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter to me how knowledgeable you are. Because nobody wants to listen to you because your intent and your disposition and your default position is to attack personally people you don't even know. A charlatan? That implies I'm a fraud. How am I fraudulent? My work speaks for itself. I've been doing this for years. And SiriusXM wanted to come to me. I got news for you. CNN will want me before they want you, and you work there. Not to mention other networks. Don't hate on us because of what you ate. Step up and be more than that by focusing on the issues. And if we don't know, teach us. So all you got to do, teach us. If you're right, we'll listen to you. And instead of me calling you out on the airwaves, what I do instead is sit on the air and say, hey, this makes perfect sense, man. Bakari Sellers is right. Just like I said, Van Jones is right. Just like I said, others are right. On the left and the right. You bought and paid for on one side. Don't even want to hear what the other has to say. But you talking about me. Sit your ass down. I ask a question. Why is it? Well, Bakari Sellers.
That's what Stephen A. Smith had to say about Bakari Sellers. Now, if you listen to what Stephen A. Smith said there, he told on himself. He said, I don't care how knowledgeable you are. I don't care how intelligent you are. And then he followed that up by saying, my work speaks for itself. And Sirius XM and CNN would rather have me on the show than have you on the show, and you work there. Stephen A. Smith's whole frame is, I'm more popular than you. Therefore, what I say matters more than what you say. So there is an argument for that when you're more popular, your message gets out to more people. But he said it right there. He told himself. He said, I don't care how knowledgeable or intelligent you are. He discounted knowledge and intelligence, and then he talked up popularity. That's who Stephen A. Smith is. So who was asking me that question? Federal court, there's your answer on Stephen A. Smith. You let them talk long enough, they tell you exactly who they are. That's who Stephen A. Smith is. And I believe he is good entertainment-wise talking sports, because sports, generally, the kind of stuff he talks about is play. You don't have to pay attention at all if you don't want to. Him getting into the political space, he won't go far because he has no substance. He has the same issue as Kamala Harris. He just speaks better than her. But he's not going anywhere. And Jasmine Crockett, same thing. She's in the House of Representatives. She's not going any further than that. She has no substance. So, federal court, I can't stress that. What I just told you is impossible for me to stretch those opinions into 2 hours of material. So that's all I can tell you about both of those individuals. So let's see what else we got. Morian said, Dearborn has a big Muslim population. Yeah, I heard that. Leah, thank you for the Starlight Compass. Precision Installation said, Kumo did the best in the debate last night. Oh, they had a debate last night? I did not know this. There was a Kumo Mamdani debate. If so, I need to go and see how that went. Kumo. Yes, they did. So on October 16th, New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Kwame Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and Curtis Silva engaged in a heated 90-minute debate at 30 Rock Studio, NBC, addressing experience, community outreach, economic plans, housing, and why are they talking about Israel? But they were. Mamdani is polling at 49%. He defended his proposals, like free buses funded by taxing the wealthy, against Cuomo's crisis management record and Silva's law and order approach. Key exchanges targeted Cuomo's COVID-19 policy, so he's going to get bashed on that, and Mamdani's stance on Israel, highlighting divisions as the November 4th election near. So it's November 4th. New York City. We got any New Yorkers in here? Any NYC folks in here? I might have to listen to this. I might have to go look up this and listen to this because I don't even live in New York and I have no plans of living in New York. But I might need to listen to this one because I'm very interested. It's still New York City, still the biggest city in one of the biggest cities in the world. And I love New York City. I'm never moving to New York, but I love New York. I want to see what's happening in New York. So November 4th, y'all got what? 2 weeks? Y'all got about 2.5 weeks, New York. We got any New Yorkers in here? Y'all got about 2.5 weeks. Good luck. And when does he get sworn in? So the new mayor gets sworn in, January 1st. Oh, you ain't got a lot of time. You ain't got a lot of time, New York. Y'all better wake up. Good morning. Nurse Gebbia said, I have a love-hate relationship with Stephen A. Smith. He's entertaining for sure. He is entertaining. He's very good at that. I mean, it's why he is who he is. Now, substance, though? No. You just said I had a meeting. What was your topic today? We're talking about the voting rights challenge happening in Louisiana and the downstream effects of how it affects the entire country. Terry said they have no substance. What does that mean? That means they're not offering you any meat and potatoes, so to speak, Terry. It's kind of like eating a Snickers bar versus eating some chicken and potatoes, if that makes sense. The Snickers bar will satisfy you for 5 minutes. The meat and potatoes will satisfy you for 3 or 4 hours. So Stephen A. Smith can keep you entertained for a long time if you just let him keep talking. He's very good at it. But is he actually giving you anything useful? The answer is no, he's not. DM said, I won't visit NYC anymore, that's for sure. Well, you could visit. I don't know if you want to live there, but visiting, look, the bus is free. According to Zoran Mamdani, the bus is going to be free. Why not? Fifth Element said New York matters nationally. Yes, it matters internationally, not just nationally. Let me tell you all how to get a copy of my book, The Third Day, The Decision Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. The book's free. All you got to do is cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com. Let me mention different books. I mentioned this book a couple of times this week already. I'll tell you about the sales discipline system. Use the 8 key disciplines of top salespeople in any industry to say goodbye to up and down months and inconsistent habits. That's the subtitle of this book. Is for any of you who is business-minded, money-focused, money-minded. You want to get better at your selling game, selling more consistently, following up. I'll give you this book for free. Just cover the shipping. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Go to salesdisciplinebook.com. Again, salesdisciplinebook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. That's the sales discipline system. Big Sam said NYC, and we all voting for Mamdani. Okay, so we got an NYCer here who's going to vote for Mamdani. All right, shout out to people voting for Mamdani. Y'all got what, 2.5 weeks? Big Worm said, and my Montel. No, I look better than Montel, and I'm younger than him too. New Yorkers, please don't move to Georgia. Carolyn said, no, they're going to come to South Florida. That's where they're all at. Fifth Element said New York City will make a bad, very, very sad socialism story if Mamdani wins. We'll say he's going to win, but we'll see. We'll see. Marky Man, have a good weekend. Now is the time. Yes. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you. You said you enjoy the lives. Thank you, everybody who enjoys the lives. I put my soundboard down for a second. So, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So, if you like this one, be back on Monday. Today's Friday, so we'll be back Monday with the next live. It's usually a current event, whatever's happening in current events. So I'm going to listen to this Mamdani and Cuomo and Silva debate because I'm interested to hear just what got said here. I might get around and listen to that over the weekend. Future topics. I usually choose the topic the day that I do this, but we are going to talk about eventually Donald Trump's DOJ indicted John Bolton for espionage. We will talk about that. We may talk about the National Guard going into Memphis. We may get into that. We may get around to there's new laws trying to stop Congress from stock trading or rules. We'll see if they're able to do that or not. And anything else that comes up. Usually I pick something that just recently happened. So I usually don't know the topic till maybe an hour or so before I actually do these. So I don't always know the topic ahead of time. So everybody, I will see you all Monday morning. If you like this one, make sure you come back Monday. Thank you to the new people. Thank you to the regulars who are always here. Thanks to my moderators, people liking the live. We did 124,000 likes here. Make sure you text me at my number, 305-384-6894. Text me the word live, L-I-V-E, the number, 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. 305-384-6894. Text me the word live. I'll send you a link to where you can get this book and all the other books that I give away for free. Also, other things that you can get inside of our world, like my texting number, my coaching programs, my Power Presence protocol, which we are working on right now and coming soon. I will see everybody Monday morning. Everybody have a great weekend. Work on your game. We are out of here.